Okay, so back to the main features of this release. Ashleigh's just going to give you a brief overview of some of the features we're going to cover now.
Yeah, excellent. So first things first, we're going to cover the HTML audio capture item. So this was formerly known as voice capture, but the new item name better describes the item's capabilities. So after that, we're going to look at the enhancements made to tasks as it leaves beta. So this includes searching and filtering, now available on the task screen, promoting changes from one item to another, tag control, and also exporting items to Word. So all great things. Next, we're going to look at the Mark Beta screen in test administration, which supports content from both mixed and HTML in tests. Then we're going to look at source material in item sets. And lastly, the Shota Center functionality.
Okay, great, excellent. Before we start as well and go through all of those features, I just want to remind you all about asking questions. So we do invite questions throughout the webinar. Please use the Q&A form next to the stream to ask your questions, and we'll try and get to you either as we go along or come back to them near the end as well. Okay, so let's get started with the audio capture question. So what's gone in with this functionality?
Well, the main benefit of this item type is that you now have control over the appearance and behaviour of the item type. And with this, you have some more settings that have been introduced. So the first things that I want to draw your attention to in step 2 of creating an audio capture item is you're now able to limit the number of candidate attempts to an audio capture item. So what this does is customise the number of times a candidate can answer the question. So an example of this, I guess, in real life would be the candidate is only allowed to ask to repeat their response twice, which you could define in the number of attempts box next to the checkbox, because in real life it's probably only polite to ask twice, for example. So yeah, it's just assessing the candidate on a more real-to-life basis.
Yes, it's a lot more realistic, isn't it? They couldn't just ask to be repeated a lot of times. It's kind of limiting it to real life.
Exactly.
Excellent.
Okay, so next in the additional options cog, we have lots of other new settings here that are available to you. So the first thing I want to talk about is you can now turn audio beeps on, which is a way to indicate to the candidate when the item has begun, basically. It's like an audio indication. Also, we have some record options, so you can now decide whether to record on a click of a button, so that will be the manual start record. You can start record with media, so simultaneously as the media starts, the candidate could start recording their response. And then finally, you can do it as an auto record, so as soon as the item is uploaded, the recording then begins. So there are some options. Thirdly, you can now customise the appearance, like I mentioned earlier. So you can hide the pause button, you can hide the save button, and you can hide attempts, progress bar, things like that. So you can really customise what the item looks like to the candidate in delivery.
Yeah, great. And I think it's also worth mentioning that all of these things add on to the previous enhancement from the last release, don't they? So in the last release, the amount of time that you could set for a response was up to 60 minutes. So there's also that which was enhanced in the last release, and all of these are on top of that as well.
Yeah, sure.
Okay, so shall we take a look what that looks like in delivery?
Yeah, let's have a look. So I've got a test here with a few items in, and the first item we're looking at has a limited number of candidate attempts defined. So they have 2. If I start recording, you can see the attempt has gone up by 1. I can pause this at this point. You may have also realised, as I was speaking then, the waveform's doing a funny little dance. So this is another visual indication that the microphone input is working for the candidate. Now if I save this attempt and try to re-record, a dialog will open that says, are you sure you want to basically have another attempt? Yes, please. And you can see the attempt now has gone up to 2.
Yeah, excellent. So there's lots there for the candidate to give them some indication of how they're doing, and also, like you say, that the microphone's working as well.
Yeah.
That's great.
The second item I want to show you is just an example, continue and save, of how stripped back the item can look. So what I've done in this item is just tick all of the options that said to hide. So hide the pause button, hide the save button, hide the number of attempts, for example. So all the candidate can do in this instance is select record.
Yeah. So could you even remove the record button if you wanted to?
Yes, exactly. So if I had some media attached to this item, I could select the response to be linked with the start of media. So once you'd started playing, you would start recording as well, so you wouldn't need the record button.
Yeah, excellent. So making it even more simple for the candidate, I guess.
Exactly.
Yeah, excellent. So I also just want to bring your attention to the fact that this was developed in combination of SQA, WJC and BTL, so that they all had input into the development of this. So if you want to find out more about kind of use cases of this, how you could use it for yourself, then please speak to us and we'll be happy to share what we know with you. Okay, the next thing we're going to look at are some enhancements to tasks. So just as a recap, tasks is a way of controlling item authors when they're creating and reviewing items. So it's a more controlled environment than item authoring. You don't have access to the whole bank of items, you just have access to the items that you get given within the task. And you can monitor a user's progress with that task as well.
Sure.
So Task was developed a few releases ago and it's been enhanced ever since, and it's been in beta, but this release is coming out of beta. Yeah, so what functionality is going into it in this release?
So a lot of the functionality has been around multiple copy review tasks, which is one of the reasons why it's leaving beta. So just to differentiate between a single copy review task and a multiple copy review task, I thought it would be useful to just talk about the way they each work.
Yep.
So the first type, a single copy review task, you have an item, a central item that lives in item authoring, that you would then allow an assignee to review and make changes to, perhaps.
Yep.
But those changes are saved to the central item. Mm-hmm. So then the item could be passed to another assignee or another few assignees, but the changes are made each time an assignee reviews that. So there was only one ever item, hence single copy review. There's only a single copy.
Yeah, so any changes that second assignee makes would also be able to be seen by that first assignee, wouldn't they?
Yeah, exactly. And then the lead assignee comes in basically just to review that single copy of the item.
Yeah, so there's only ever one copy, as you say. Single copy, one copy of the item. Okay, so how does it differ in multiple copy reviews?
So the difference is there are multiple copies. So each assignee receives a version of that central item, and then they make the changes to that copy, and then those copies are then sent to the lead assignee. So the lead assignee can review each individual copy and decide which elements of those copies they want to put back into the central item in item authoring. So it's a way for assignees kind of work more independently with their own version of the item.
Okay, I guess then they won't see anybody else's changes, will they? They'll just see their own
Exactly.
copy.
Yeah.
Okay, great. So how does this work in tasks then, in the tasks screen?
So we're talking about multiple copy review tasks, and you may think, okay, as a lead assignee, I may want to compare the edited version with the central version, just to more easily see the changes that have been made. So with the 12.18 release, what a lead assignee can do now is open the comparison view. So in a side-by-side window, they can see the central item and the edited item. And in this side-by-side view, they can copy changes from the edited directly and instantly into the central item. So should we have a look at what that looks like? Okay, so I've opened up a task here, and it's a multiple copy review task, and I've been given lead assignee permissions. So the bottom left, we've got single view or the comparison view, and you can tell I've opened it in the comparison view because you can see them side by side there. So the edited copy is on the right hand side, and you can see next to the question stem and the answer options there is this blue button. This is the promote button. So if the edited copy had a significantly changed question stem in step 1, then I thought, okay, I want that into the original item, I would select the promote button, and it would instantly copy and paste those changes into the original item.
Okay, great. It looks a little bit like version compare, is that right? So you're
Yes.
comparing two of the same version of the item.
Yes, exactly that.
Okay.
Yes, that's what I'd say about that.
That's great. So that's a multiple copy review. Are there any other changes, enhancements that have been made to tasks?
Yes, so one of the main things with tasks is the ability to now search and filter in the task screen. So there are a few ways you can do this. If you know the task name or the task reference, you can directly search for those in the search bar. You can also filter by You can order the task screen, so if you want to see which tasks are perhaps ending most recently, then you can order it that way. And then there is also the filter tab, so this is a great way to filter the task screen more closely. So if you know the range which the start date and end date was created for a task, you could search by that way. You could search by the parent subject, which is defined at the point of task creation. You can also search by task type, which is really important if you know that the task you're looking for is a review task. You can look for that. And lastly, you can look for tasks that have been ticked as showed as completed. So at the moment, when a task is completed, it leaves a task screen, but you can choose to bring that back. For example, if you want to reopen the task and review those items again.
Okay, great. Can we have a look at it in the task screen?
Sure. So I'm in the task screen, and you can see in the top right hand corner we've got these three options. So you can search in the search bar, you can change the order by, and then lastly you've got the task type. So if I look for only review tasks, you can see that's shortened the list. However, if I tick show completed, maybe do it like that, you can see the list has been expanded a little bit as we now have some completed tasks in the list.
Yeah, so you can see that it's really useful that it automatically filters out those completed, because else the list gets quite long, doesn't it?
Yeah, extensively.
Yeah. Okay, that's great. What else have we got in tasks?
We've got lots. So the next thing is tag control. So this is a way that you can, as a task manager, you can control how assignees interact with tags in a task. So you can choose either three things. You can choose whether to show all tags for an item, so that means the assignee can interact with all tags available. You can decide to hide all tags, so the assignee can interact with none, and then you can also customize tags. So what this bit of functionality allows is a whitelist to be created in which you predetermine which tag categories and tag groups the assignee can interact with.
Yeah. Okay, so why might you want to do that? What's the purpose of it?
The purpose. So tasks is a restricted, secure place for assignees to interact with items that they don't need access to item authoring or any other part of Surpass. They can literally just go into tasks and do their job.
Yeah.
So to have this tag functionality is great, because then you're restricting, especially with the customize option, you're restricting how assignees can interact with items and allow them to perhaps add tags and assign tag groups without them having to have access to item authoring.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah, so it's adding more control, isn't it, to what the item author can see.
Sure.
It's also worth mentioning at this point that as well as controlling this in tasks, we've also added the opportunity to add read-only tag groups in setup for subjects in item authoring in this release. So that means that you can control by permission. So those people who have the read-only tag permission will now be able to edit those tag groups in item authoring, but users without that permission won't. So there's also that level of control that you can have in item authoring as well.
Cool.
Okay, the final task feature then. So what's this all about?
Okay, so exporting to Word. What this allows users to do is to basically export to Word. So they can download the task items into a Word document and review those offline. So this is, you're able to use this in a review task, and review task managers are able to do this only if they have the export items permission. So it is still a restricted feature. However, if we have a little look at what that looks like.
Yep.
So I've got a review task. If I look at my own, I've got a review task here selected, and then I can select export to Word. So in this window, you can decide which fields you would like to be exported. So you can choose all, or you can narrow them down. For the purpose of this demo, I'm just going to select a couple, and then continue. So you need to generate these items as a Word document, and then once it's finished generating, the summary will be populated with what you've just asked it to pull back.
Yeah. So this is a bit like the export to Word feature in the test wizard, isn't it?
Yes.
Yeah, so you can export different information for each item. However, this isn't based on a test, so you don't have to have put the items into a test beforehand. You can just export a task. Why would you want to export items to Word?
So it's just a way for you to do it offline. I was going to say online then, offline. So because multiple copy reviews are an individual task, it means that they're not, with this, that means that they're not stuck to an internet connection. They can also complete a multiple copy review remotely and then put their answers back into Surpass later date. So should we have a look at the exported items? So one thing to mention is that what it brings back, as I'm showing you an example of a multiple copy review, it'll give you 2 exports. So you'll have the central and then you'll have the additional review copy of that.
Okay, yeah, because in a multiple copy review, as you explained, you've got the central copy of the item and then lots of review copies, haven't you, from lots of different users. So the first one will just show you the central copies, whereas the other one will show you central and review copies as well.
This is interesting. Okay. Okay, so this is an example of one of the ones you've brought back. So this first item, 1.2, you can see the answer option is A, marked by the asterisks. And you can review this remotely.
Yeah, great. Cool. Okay, we've had a question in, just to go back to audio capture. Okay. So Phil has asked the question, with audio attempts, will the examiner be able to listen to both attempts, or is the candidate overwriting the first attempt?
You answered your own question. It's overwriting the first attempt. So there will be a dialogue pops up that says, I think I clicked through it quite quickly, but it does say that by select and record again, then you are essentially recording it again over that first attempt. So the only saved one will count. Yeah. Okay, thank you. Cool. Right, let's move on to the next point. So we've also got the Mark beta screen coming in. So what's this all about? What's the purpose of this? Well, this screen is still under active development, hence the beta. And also to see this screen, you'll need to have your beta functionality ticked in site settings. So if you can't see it, check your site settings. Yeah. However, this screen is great because it allows you to mark HTML content, and it really puts the end-to-end process into Surpass. It allows you to open HTML content in the Mark script and be able to view that as it was meant to be. Yeah. So I guess if you're trying to put through HTML content, you're trying to practice with it, put through your testing to make sure that it all works as you want. This is definitely something that you can use to do that end-to-end testing. Yeah, exactly. Yeah. So should we have a look at the screen? Yeah. Okay. So this is what it looks like. It's got a lovely interactive table in which if you select any of the headers, as we're used to with Surpass, you can interact with that. It's also got a very snazzy collapsible filter panel. Very nice. In which you can filter accordingly. Say, for example, this Mark screen had hundreds and hundreds of pages. You could filter based on tests that have only been escalated, for example. So you can see in a real-life scenario why this filter panel could be useful. Yeah, definitely. So I've got a test here selected. If I select Mark script, then we can have a look at the marking dialog. So we've got 2 items here to mark, as you can see by the asterisks in the item breadcrumb. We can see the candidate's response in this scrollable text box, and then on the right hand side we've got some Mark's learning outcomes. So as you can see, it's a much smoother experience. It looks really good and we hope people enjoy. Yeah, excellent. Okay, so anything else about the Mark script dialog? Tests go to both screens at the moment, the Mark screen and the Mark beta screen. So that's the last bullet point. So they're both functional, basically, aren't they? Yeah, exactly. At the moment. Yeah. So it's not stopping you from doing anything, and you don't have to enable anything to do it here, do you? No, it just works. It just goes into both. Yeah. Excellent. Right, the next thing we're going to look at is adding source material to an item set. So what's this all about? So this is all about, so now you can add source material at an item set level, and what this will do will add the source material across all of the items in that item set. You will still be able to add source material at an item by item basis in that item set. It's just a way to get source material included into all of the items in a real quick way. So I think the example we gave is if you're doing a case study and you want the same source material to be in each item, it's a really quick way to get it in all of the items at once. So shall we have a look at what that looks like in item authoring?
Yeah.
So I'm working in my subject in item authoring, and I've selected the item set, so I can see the item set settings in this window, and then right at the bottom at step 3 we've got source material. So this is where you would add source material in exactly the same way that we're used to at an item level, and then it will apply those to all of the items within this set. So I've got a test set up in which this item has been set up with source material of its own, and then at the top you can see the same source material that was added at the item set level. So the candidate is able to interact with both of those in the same way as we expect with source material. So it's a great piece of functionality.
Yeah, great. So if you've got any case studies or anything that you want to create as part of an item set, not only can you add tags and enemy items at the item set level, you can now also add source material. So editing things in one place means that you don't have to add it to multiple items again.
Sure, it's a really quick way for item authors.
Yeah, great. Okay, we've had a question come in that I just want to go to quickly. So, can the user double-click a script to open it rather than selecting Mark Script on the Mark Beta screen?
I feel like let's just have a go.
Let's just have a go. No, is the answer.
No, you must select Mark Script.
Yeah.
Good to know.
It is good to know. Right. No more questions for now, okay. But if you do have any questions, then please do write them in the form and we'll get back to you. Okay, the final one, Shota Center. So what is this?
So at the moment, the audit screen, not at the moment, it still is, the audit screen is a site level permission. So once results have been released and a test is in audit, unless you are a site level user, you cannot see that those responses again. So what this feature is all about is in audit is the Shota Center button.
Yeah.
So once you've selected that, you can then see the responses again in results. So should we have a little look at that?
Yeah, please.
Okay, so here's an example of a test that was in audit, and then what I did kind of behind the scenes, I selected Shota Center, and you can see it again in this screen in results. So now I can again view responses, which I wouldn't have been able to do before. So it's a way for subject and centre level users to see responses again once the results have been released.
Yeah, so your user is not a site level user, yours is a centre level user.
Yeah.
But you're able to view those responses in results as well.
Yeah, exactly. You can see that as I don't have the audit in this test administration window. So yeah, it's a way for centre level users to see responses again.
Just while you're refreshing that, we've got another question coming. So does the source material appear in all individual items? So this is for the item set source material, or can it appear at the case stem level? So I think that's sort of, I guess, confusing what's in item authoring and delivery, isn't it? So in item authoring, you do author one item set and items separately, but in delivery, the item set is, you can enable it in the breadcrumb as a label, but you never see an actual item set question, you just see all of the items individually.
Yeah.
So yeah, it would appear on all of the individual items, not an item set, because the candidate doesn't see an item set separately, do they?
No, that's true. It's item by item.
Yeah. Okay, so when can I start using these great new features? So 12.18 is scheduled for release this month. So look out for the maintenance message on your instance, which will tell you that we're upgrading to the next version. We'll also send an email telling you when these updates have been completed. So you'll be alerted that that's the case. If you're not on the mailing list and you'd like to be, then please speak to your account manager and they can add you to the mailing list as well. We've also already published the release notes as a preview version and also the playlist. So if you want to find out more about any of the features, the release notes are more extensive, so they'll have all of the features, not just the main features that are going in. Then please do read those and watch the playlist videos for more information. So yeah, visit learn.surpass.com, which is the learning portal, and also the knowledge base. You can access those from Surpass. Finally, thank you for listening. If you have any other questions, then we'll get back to you afterwards. We hope to see you at some of these events. If you want any more information about anything we've seen, then please do ask if you're at any of these events, and we'll be happy to give you a more in-depth demo. Thank you.
Thanks.